Okay. It's 5:30, so I will call the September meeting of the Deschutes Public Library District Board to order. Welcome, everybody. Good to see a full house here tonight. Since we started meeting at night, we don't get quite as many friends. First up, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the August 7th library work session meeting minutes and the August 13th board meeting minutes and the disbursements. We've got a chance to look those over. Any additions or corrections? Nothing.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Oh, I thought you did roll call on that one.
Sorry. Okay, Aaron Trump.
Aye.
And Betsy Tucker. And Laura is not here, and Michelle,
Aye.
and Pam.
Aye.
Okay, got it.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, next up is public comments, and we have a member of the public that would like to address the board.
Great.
Um,
Scott Brees, founder and director of Connect Central Oregon, and a longtime supporter of libraries and library systems, including the Deschutes Public Library. I'm here representing officially, and I get to wear the Connect Central Oregon hat, even though I'm wearing a different shirt today. Here I am, after a couple of years since we sat in the room here talking to the board about the bond, and as we were preparing for the new libraries, and we participated at a great level to the library discussions, the architecture, and so on. As we've continued to grow the Connect Central Oregon program, one of our primary programs is volunteerism, and obviously we participated heavily and continue to participate heavily with the library system and their volunteer events. What I've come to the board with is I want to share with you some of the things that are starting to go a little awry, and I'm not here to complain. I am simply here to make sure you are aware that everything is not bright and rosy. And one of the examples is a lot of the effort and intent to go with how we intend to use these programs and tools, resources, and so on with the libraries aren't quite happening the way we all sort of intended originally. One of the examples, and I want to ask you as a board to think about what is happening. I've been told that you're all working on the definition of the word partnership. And I understand the staff itself is redefining that because of course, everybody wants to call themselves a partner of the library, wants to tell you what that means rather than collaborate with you on what that means. Count me in that list. But I think we're at the point now where I feel like we, who truly have felt like a partner and have continued to represent ourselves as a partner, we are definitely feeling we are not a partner and we aren't having that relationship. As many of the people that we would have this partnership with are starting to retire, including our own board president, and board chair, Betsy Warner, who is now officially retired for the 4th or 5th time, and is moving on. We have a new board, which we're going to be announcing very soon. And I want to be able to go back to them and say, here's what our relationship is with the Deschutes Public Library. I can't do that because I don't know. So my public comment really centers around, as we continue to talk about all these new libraries coming online, all these new spaces, and certainly as I can finally talk about maturity of my own organization where we are, this is primarily dedicated towards Todd and the staff, but I want to make sure the board is aware that as Connect Central Oregon, we are here about strengthening our community. We believe extremely strongly that the Deschutes Public Library continues to be one of the most important anchors to us. It is much like the Chambers of Commerce or government. When somebody moves into the town and says, where do I go for info? It's the library, the chamber, the government, and so on. So it's very important to us as an organization to know what our relationship is while you're defining what that relationship and your term partnership means. I want to make sure that we don't get left out simply because we're going through our own transitions. So again, I want to say thank you. It's really exciting as a makerspace guy to see the systems that are up there and see people using them. So there's a certain part of me that's sitting here going, all right, this is great. Let's just keep evolving. But I felt it was time and appropriate to come back to the board and make sure you know, not only are we not gone, we're strengthened. And I'm definitely saying to you, it needs some attention what this relationship is. So help me figure that out. And you know, here we are after summer. We're gonna go figure it out together. So thank you for the public comment moments, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna hang out for a little.
Thank you, Scott. We'll definitely connect.
Yes, thank you again. And I'm gonna go ahead and kick off because that was really all I wanted was just a public comment. We don't need anything right now. We're certainly following up, but I wanted to be on your radar.
Okay, we
All right.
appreciate your time.
Thank you again.
Thank you, and all your involvement
Yeah.
for the long term. Thank you, Scott. Any other public comment? Online or in person? Now we're up to.
We have-
Oh, we have some new staff.
Yes, so I'm gonna have Lynne introduce some changes we have around here.
I think that the board, was aware, but if you're not, we did, Myra Korn, left the library. Her last day was August 1st. And we had interviews and have two new regional library operations managers. And they're new and they're old at the same time. First one I'll introduce is our, Alyssa Bennett. She is, gonna be representing Bend, and I'll let her tell a little bit about herself.
Okay,
Go ahead.
yeah. I'm coming on 18 years of working with the library. Lynn hired me 18 years ago. I worked in tech services and then moved on to become a supervisor. In the community library for a while and then supervisor and now stepped into the managerial role. So I'm really delighted to be able to continue on and I'm really excited about opening up that central library and seeing what happens in downtown Bend. So very exciting and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
So this will be, representing our Bend communities and our volunteer services. And so, yeah, she's excited about Central. Our other regional manager is Sonia Brandeis. You should see her from Redmond. And, but she will be representing more of our more rural and small town libraries. So Sisters Lapine, Sun River and the Redmond Library. So you wanna give a little bit about?
After a long career in private sector, I joined the library in 2017. When I started as a PSS, part-time, 20 hours, and now I'm here, so it's been going good, I guess. I was very fortunate to be part of the whole process of kind of bringing Redmond online, building that staff, participating in that, building from design to where it is today.
Yes, I'd say you want to introduce the new Redmond
Now-
supervisor.
Bree is here from, she started with CPL at Lapine, and so we just brought her over. Redmond, so she's taking over my place there and we're kind of bumping each other up the road.
No, we're doing shuffle.
Yeah.
All right.
The other person who's not here today, but is also a familiar face is, Graham Fox. He was a supervisor in Redmond years ago, and he was a community librarian. I think he came here and spoke maybe a couple times about his outreach, especially what he's been doing with houseless population and Thrive. And he is now a downtown Bend supervisor. So we're very happy to have him back, as a supervisor in that role. And, then with Bree leaving Lapine, that left an opening, and I'm happy to also announce that Kaylin, C is now the supervisor in Lapine. And if you all know Kaylin, she's been there, that is her spot. So we're really pleased to have her in that position as well. So yeah, the little bit of a shuffling there, the kind of the domino effect, but very happy to have great internal candidates that were ready to step in and do that job. It really shows a lot of growth of our staff and also forward motion and as an organization too, to promote them. So we're really pleased about that.
Well, it's great. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
and congratulations to everybody. It's good to have you back. Everybody with new roles. That's
So if you don't remember, you can ask. We have to quiz ourselves every now and then.
all right. Well, thank you for letting us know. You know what would be helpful?
I know what you're gonna say. We're working.
We're working on it.
Okay.
We have an org chart with pictures and we can't figure out how to print it out without them coming out this big. So, but we are working on it.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful because it's, people do move around and
Oh, yeah.
it's nice to know
Yeah.
who's where.
There's I tasked Lori with that. And she has been diligently trying to figure it out. So without without doing it, so we have to print a book for you.
Right, right. Well, even just the names would be helpful,
Oh,
but the
that would be
pictures
good.
would really. be-
Yes.
Okay, now, Robert, the fourth quarter financials.
Well, I know you have lots to cover tonight, and so I'll try and be as brief as I can. That said, I do want to make sure that we're giving the attention that the fourth quarter financial report would merit. This is our last snapshot of the previous fiscal year before we pull it all together into our annual financial report. A lot of the numbers you see here will be either very close to or identical to what you see in the financial report, but then the financial report has all of the other details. So this is almost like a top level summary to give you a little taste of what's to come in just a couple of months.
And that financial report is part of the audit report.
So, just jumping right into the cash reconciliation report. Again, thinking about this being the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. So let me zoom that in, who that is. Yeah. Ooh. Let's try that. A little bit more readable, hopefully. So this is the fourth quarter. This is also, you'll hear me talk a lot about FY25. So this is the end of fiscal year 24-25. And then looking at our cash position, you know, the main takeaways here is that we're looking at cash position year over year has gone down, but that number is roughly equivalent to the amount of cash that we expended for the building project. So that's the biggest driver for the change in total cash. In terms of the positions in the modified accrual basis portion of the report, we want to see a 0 at the end of the fiscal year for this line. That means that all of our accounts receivables have been paid. So that's good. Our accounts receivables list is very limited, but it's our partnerships with the Jefferson County, Crook County for IOL services. It's our partnership with the County Law Library. And then, those are pretty much our only receivables. So all of those came through earlier in the year and are off of the modified accrual basis. A couple other things to note: deposits and prepaids. As long as we're in the construction projects, those prepaids are going to be very high because there's lots of things baked into that from the construction project. Things like insurance over multiple years and deposits that we place on furniture that's going into the central library and so forth. Same thing with accounts payable. That accounts payable number is a very high number. If you think about that's $8 million that the district owes, that's just kind of sitting out there as an IOU. 3.2 million of that is just the retainage that we're holding on to on the construction project for Central with Kirby. And so that's a bit of leverage for the district to ensure that if there's any issues during construction, that we have some financial leverage that we can lean on in order to influence the contractor to make right. And so that's a big chunk of that. And again, with construction projects going on, there's lots of large expenditures that end up getting kind of caught at that unpaid moment in time. It's a snapshot of June 30th when the checks get written on, say, July 2nd. And then the other thing I'll mention about this report is looking at this summary line down here. These are our ending fund balances for Q4 for the fiscal year ending 2025. So looking at these are the numbers. Again, more or less, in some cases identical, in some cases there may be some small adjustments once we get through the finalizing of the annual report. This is the ending fund balance for the general fund, 19,156,000, which is a little bit higher than what we projected when we put the budget together 3-4 months ago. And so we're ending up about 2% higher on ending fund balance than what we thought would be carrying over into the new year. Same thing with the bond capital fund. We were projecting 85 million for our starting balance for this year's budget. We're ending last year roughly around 87 million, which is a great position to be going into. It's a little bit of extra cash that we can hopefully gives us a little bit more breathing room on that budget. Okay, so moving into the detail reports, I'll skip past this highlights and I'll just kind of talk to that and we'll look at the numbers pages. So we look at the general fund. And first off, in terms of resources, we ended the year very close to where we thought we would at the end of this fiscal year in the budget. 98% of what was budgeted for total resources. Things really worked out better than expected in areas such as interest accrued over time, money earned for the prior year's taxes and even current taxes came in very close to where we thought it would land. And so all of those kind of added up to a very, very good number for total resource relative to where we thought we would be. In terms of the personal services side or the employment expenditures side, around 92% of what we had budgeted for the year. So pretty much all of that is accounted for by kind of understandable delays between a position going open and the time it takes to fill. So there were maybe a couple of instances where we budgeted for a full year of a position, but then we knew that we probably weren't going to hire that until like September or October. So there's a few things going on there, but tracked really well in terms of both salary and benefits to expectation. When we look at expenditures, overall expenditures came in around 90% of budget. However, looking at these detail lines, obviously you can see it's a bit of a mixed bag. Wow, 639% of budgeted. Wait a minute, what is that? That's non-employee labor. What went into non-employee labor in last year's fiscal year budget? At this time last year, when we were working with the auditors, we had some discussions about what was and what wasn't allowable use of bond proceeds. And if you recall, we talked about that during the audit review. What that ultimately meant was we did have to go back and make a corrective entry where expenditures that we thought were appropriate use of bond proceeds ended up being expended against general fund when it wasn't budgeted as such. Thankfully, we had underrun in other categories that gave us a little bit more wiggle room. And this was that discussion we had at the beginning of the fiscal year where we said, okay, we know we have a problem in these categories. We don't know whether we'll exceed appropriations for materials and services. And each quarter we were making assessments of whether or not to come back to the board for a supplemental budget. And each quarter it looked like things were tracking well due to underrun in some of the other categories. And ultimately that's how it ended up. So categories like non-employee labor and rent come in significantly higher than budgeted. Both of those are due to transferring expenditures in the fiscal year from bond proceeds to expending them against general operating fund. The rent was the rent on the Redmond Design Center. Other categories of interest here, election expense ran higher than expected, but as Todd tells you every year that there's an election, it is a bit of a roll of the dice because it's highly dependent on how many other entries there are on the ballot, both in terms of elected positions as well as bond measures. Bond measures and initiatives and things like that. So it was a lighter ballot, and so we bore more of the cost proportionally then.
And we ran 4 positions.
And we ran 4 positions as well, yeah.
Wow.
Which I tried to anticipate.
Yeah. No,
So I can never
I
get the
think
number
you
right.
doubled the election expense
Yeah.
from the last entry. It was something
Yeah.
like either 18 or 20,000.
I thought I was somewhere overboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, the other categories really are, well, insurance is the other one I would highlight, and that is that, there was a higher than anticipated increase in our premiums starting in January of 2025. That was really, for the most part, not due to anything that we did. It's just market forces. I say for the most part, because we did have a claim 2 years ago for the Sisters pipe burst. And so anytime you file a claim, it's going to have an impact. And until it hits, you don't really know how much of an increase you're going to see. So we increased our insurance budget in that year's fiscal year. And we thought we had given ourselves a healthy margin and wasn't quite enough. Those are the main ones. The other ones are small variable type expenditures, and we've made some adjustments in this year's budget to try and adjust appropriately for those. Then when I look at capital outlay, that tracks pretty well. So we, again, remembering capital outlay contains 3 significant categories. The most significant category in capital outlay is the purchase of physical books into our collection. So that is tracked now, the capital expenditure. The other big capital outlay is for IT purchases, which varies. So we make a best guess of how much equipment we think we'll need to cycle through. But then some things run very much at a schedule and other things don't. And some things come in at a way better price because Mark Hovey is really diligent about negotiating prices with his vendors. And then the third area is capital outlay out of facilities. And that one's highly variable because it really depends on the replacement costs of various pieces of furniture and other big pieces of equipment. And during the construction period, my capital outlay out of my department for facilities has been relatively low because we're getting all new things, right? And then we're making do with and repurposing a lot of other things. So that's a big chunk of that unspent capital outlay that you see at the end of the year. Looking at the other funds, zoom that out just a little bit. There we go. That's still relatively readable. Okay. Looking at the other funds, so we'll start with the reserve fund. Reserve fund, there was nothing budgeted last fiscal year, so really it was our best guess at where we thought interest revenue would land. We gave ourselves a healthy budget for interest revenue. It didn't quite line up to that, but all in all, there was a healthy chunk of additional cash from interest earned. The one area that we had budgeted for an increase in revenues was a transfer from the general fund. And we did opt and brief the board on that several months ago that we did not choose to make that transfer, so that 100,000 didn't actually land on the budget and reserve fund, and it stayed in the general fund. Overall, we ended the balance on the reserve pretty much where we thought we would for the current budget. Going to grant funds. Grant funds came in resourced at 101%. So remember, we did make that adjustment in the grant funds to retire several of the expired grants. So that's why you see this transfer, that when we retired those, then that authorized a transfer of the remaining balance over to the general fund. So then you end up seeing that the ending balance here landed right around where we had budgeted at 71,250, and we ended up 71,981. And then in terms of materials and services expended, we expended about 70% of what was planned, and that came out of ready to read grants for 2024 and 2025.
Just highlight as always, this is always a little, most of our spending comes in the summer with summer with the library, and that straddles 2 years. So we're always kind of balancing that spending, whether it happens in June or July.
Exactly. Okay, so then we get to capital projects, which is the construction projects. We did end up resourced about 103% of overall where we thought we would be by the end of the year. The majority of that came from higher than expected interest revenue. This other revenue were some small incentives from Energy Trust Oregon that were related to Redwood Library and some of the different things that we did there for energy efficiency. So that was not budgeted, not expected, but they came through, and that was a nice little $100,000 windfall for us. Looking at materials and services and capital outlay, overall 57% of budgeted, but this particular fund, we always budget very overly pessimistic for the expenditures to give ourselves enough wiggle room for the unexpected on a construction project. And I almost hate to say it, but like the unexpected has been fairly limited in the range of how weird and wild unexpected can get on a construction project for us. And I'll leave it at that. So we ended the year with 87 million. We thought we would be starting this current fiscal year with 85,000. That's a really nice position to be in, to be at 2.8 million higher than you thought we'd be starting the year, especially given that these are our last couple of years for this fund. So every little bit gives us more choices and options and opportunities for those end of project type decisions. Finally, we've got the debt service fund. So this one is just tracking along really well to expectation. It's very limited. Obviously, there's exactly 3 expenditures in this fund, and also our understanding of the inflows from tax revenues are pretty well understood. So the biggest variable is where we'll land on interest revenue. And so we always make our best guess based on what we think market rates are going to be and what our average balance is going to be. And then we always blow it out of the water. At least given the interest rates over the last couple of years, we tend to overperform on this no matter how optimistic we seem to be in our budget on these. So again, ending the year in a very good position with plenty of money in the carryover to cover that first interest payment, or the majority of that first interest payment come December. And over the next 3-4 months, we will receive the lion's share of our tax revenue on this, and we will have the rest of the balance needed for these payments for next year. Okay, last part is just to look at our investment portfolio. We have 2 major portfolios, one dedicated to the bond-related proceeds. I'll zoom it in, but then we'll kind of focus on this section here. What are we looking at? We're looking at the first row is how much cash we have on hand in LGIP. The second row is a small amount of uninvested balance in that US bank custody account. And then the remaining lines represent the portfolio of various investments that the district has with the bond proceeds that we received from the bond issue. So for reference, you take away that 38 million, we're looking at about 50 million remaining in investments of something on the order of 220 million to start from the bond proceeds. That is completely to be expected. We're 4.5 years in since we received the money from the bond proceed, and we're 4.5 years into the bond projects. And so we are expending that. We're transferring it as they mature into LGIP for use for cash flow. And then oftentimes we're reinvesting. And that's the thing I want to highlight for you here, is that the name of the game with these remaining 6 investments is monitoring cash flow and cash flow needs. So for example, I'm looking at these 3 lines that are coming due in the current quarter. This one already matured. These 2 are maturing next week. And we essentially cashed out this $10 million one, but we're going to reinvest these 2. I'm sorry, I flipped that around. We reinvested the 10 million because we didn't need it at the time, but we are cashing out the 6 million because we can kind of see based on Greg's projections how cash flow is going to be and how that's going to eat away at that 38 million. And then this 10 million just went into a short-term bond, like a 6-month or a 9-month option, so that it could be sitting here at the bottom of the list, ready for us 6 months from now for us to just cash out. Overall, in terms of my report and responsibility to you at the board, per the investment policy that you approved a couple years ago, we take a look at things like what's our balance in terms of maturity? Do we have too many long-term investments? No, everything is really coming due in the next 18 months, essentially. Are we over invested in higher risk corporate type investments, or are we in more or less quote unquote safe territory with US Treasuries and Oregon investment pool? And the answer is yes. Our overall portfolio balance meets our investment policy, and we, in my opinion, are in compliance with the board's approved investment policy for this quarter. All right, and then just to round it out, the second portfolio to report to you, this is our ongoing portfolio of unappropriated general fund and reserve fund. So what do I mean by that? Every year when we put together the budget, we expect a certain amount of resource, we budget a certain amount of expenditure. And then there's a difference between those two numbers. That's our unappropriated amount. So that's money that the board has not appropriated for use this year, which means it's money that's available for longer term investments, in theory at least. And if need be, we could always cash any of those out if the board approved the supplemental budget, if we needed it for general fund. But as it stands as an investment strategy, this gives us a little bit of that portion of the unappropriated fund we invest up to, not to exceed the unappropriated fund in a variety of treasuries and other things that comply with the investment policy. Things that we sequence so that we can draw on that for cash management needs. And as you can see, as of June 30th, we had a balance of 6.7 million. We had a variety of things coming to maturity before the large tax receipt that comes in November. And so monitoring those last few just to make sure that we can cash those out if it looks like we need those in order to cover cash flow needs for expenditures up to November, or to decide to reinvest it if it looks like we're operating well above that 17% lower limit for having operating cash on hand.
If you're looking at the budget, what we're not projected to spend is less than 21 million, because that's 6.7 million LGIP. That's basically a checking account. It's
Yeah,
sitting
that's right.
there waiting for us. So the rest of that is really the piece that we aren't planning on spending.
That's exactly right. So yeah, you take this 21.1, subtract 6.7. So what is that? It's like 14.5, 14.4. So that's the amount that's invested over the next, what is that? The next 15 months. Yeah. Okay, so that is the full financial report for Q4. Do you have any questions?
The interest revenue that we're seeing throughout this, the majority of that interest revenue is coming from the bond funds that are invested.
Well, so if you're talking about the capital projects fund,
That's what I'm looking at.
yes, so the vast majority of that interest line on this page, that's 7.9 million, the vast majority of that is coming from maturing investments. So either coupon payments on treasuries that we're holding, or the maturing amount on the investments minus the par amount, basically, it is being claimed as interest revenue. There is also a decent size revenue from the interest in the LGIP account because we carry quite a high balance. And so I want to say there's almost like $1 million in LGIP revenue. What was the last thing I showed you, Greg, for over the life of the project from LGIP? It was something like 2.5 or 3 million over the course of 4 years, just from LGIP, from having a balance of, I mean, I think our annual average balance sits around 40 million in that account. And so that starts to add up over time.
So is that showing up in the general fund, the other interest revenue in the general? fund?
Yeah, so if you look in the general fund, then you ask yourself, all right, where is that interest revenue coming from? The vast majority of that is coming from LGIP. A small amount is coming from some of the maturing bond interest or coupon payments on those bonds. But it's almost like a reverse, just in terms of the overall balance of cash and what's being held in the various instruments.
Okay, because that's providing a pretty big cushion for the variance that we're seeing.
It is absolutely a huge, yeah, like if you look at that on the general fund, 364,000 of that variance. It's more than half of that variance, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, so the variance really without that would be almost 1 million. Which
Yes.
is still relatively acceptable, but just it looks different.
You are correct, and in fact, when it comes time for us to start talking about the long-term projections. That's one of the pieces that I try to model in there, is that you can't rely on interest revenue carrying much longer. Because even if interest rates stay where they're at, if your balance is decreasing over time, then obviously you're going to get less interest. And then, of course, interest rates are much higher than historical levels. Well, historical and 20-year levels. And so like, can you really count on that either? So yeah, interest is a big variable in there. And you always kind of want to go a little more conservatively when you're estimating. All right.
Well,
Thank
I
you very much.
appreciate
It
it.
looks great. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, and it's great to be able to review these separate from the audit.
Yes,
Because when it's with the audit, there's just so much other commentary and things to discuss.
yes.
That it's nice to be able to say, how did we end the year?
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you very much.
My parting shot disclaimer is that what I said from the beginning, though, the numbers may be different than what you see in the annual report, because we're still in active conference with the CPA to finalize the annual statement. And then, of course, there's always those go backs with the auditor. Hey, have you considered this? Or we think you should do that. And those will account for some adjustments from these numbers. Still, this is a pretty good benchmark to be able to say, okay, now I've seen the top level, now I can peel that layer of the onion back and start looking at the details.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Todd, whether you wanna make a plug for budget training.
Yeah, I did send out some information on the budget training. It's interesting that they were doing that this year so early, because usually they do it after January. So there'll be more opportunities coming, and I highly recommend they have online ones that you may want to sign up for, even if you may not have a chance to go to it, because you get all the materials. The live ones are really good too. I just caution you that a lot of other special districts come, and you may sit and listen to a lot of questions about, I'm in a water district with 3 people and they're all my cousins.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a really good primer on, it'll start making sense, the things that we do in the budget time, like why I come to you in February and ask you to appoint me as the budget officer. And things like that, and when we put out reports and why we have different categories. And for me, I think it's very understandable too. So I recommend that. I will, as they come up, I will send them out to you.
Yeah, I found them even after I'd been on the board for a while, and then we went to one and I learned a lot. And it's kind of one of those checkpoint things where as board members, Todd, we're trusting Todd to do the right thing, but it's nice to be able to know, based on what we've learned, that the forms are being filled out correctly and all of that. So it's a good refresher. I know Betsy doesn't need a refresher, but the rest of us don't deal with it all the time,
I
so.
go for the stories from the little 3-person districts.
Yeah, no, it's especially this training, is really eye-opening, cemetery districts, and there's all kinds of special districts, so.
And then my biggest takeaway is if you get their slides, at the end of it, they have all their phone numbers. Because if anybody ever needs to get hold of the Department of Revenue, it's almost impossible, but for some reason they put their personal phone, direct lines. And I just go down the list and keep calling them until somebody answers, so.
And they have updates on what's new, too,
Yes.
so
Oh, yeah.
that's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely recommend it.
Yeah. So, okay, now we're turning to the Greg show for the rest of the, just about the rest of the meeting. We have a lot of business here, so.
We do, it's definitely a month about budgets and authorizations, in the report schedule really stayed very static. Things are moving along, tracking to that schedule. I've been updating the master development schedule for the most part twice a year, generally in February and then again in August. And as we went through and evaluated it, it really said, hey, there's really no reason to update it and change it. And we were really tracking tightly to that schedule, which is what would like to see. And little minor adjustments, but nothing that moves the needle on anything major within. So that's why there was no change, and we're staying with that moving forward, and no changes to the date. So schedule is like I said, very static, but it's real promising on the progress at Central Library, is that Kirby's making really good headway and moving right along, tracking to their construction schedule, and had numerous meetings with them over the last couple of weeks just to talk about how they were doing as they go into the home stretch here of the last 4 months of construction to the end of the year, to be really ready for all of the FF&E moves and all of the staff and personnel moves that come with that. And that's gonna be a really big lift for the district, the largest that we've had to date, and most intense activity coming up after the new year. So schedule wise, it's in really good shape. From a budget standpoint, the sources and the overall budget amount stayed the same. Definitely some movement within the budget. Some of the things we talked about it a little bit in the past, but really was able to go through and kind of finalize them. One of the things that comes up first there under the general administrative budget, and there were two big changes in that overall budget, and it was around the collection size and budget there, as well as an adjustment in the owner's representative line item and what was going on there. So the big change in the collection budget, and one of the things I just wanted to talk about is that at the time the bond was originally passed, they, in the bond estimate, had put in a number for collection. But it was very unscientific. It was just, somebody said, boom, throw some dollars in it. So as we first started establishing the budget, DPL went through and did a really detailed estimate of what if we bought all notebooks for everything. Well, that was one great big number. And then there was a whole range of numbers of what if scenarios on how much collection would cost, how much new collection was going to be needed. And so we ended up balancing and setting a budget of 7 million in there for that. Well, now that we've gotten through the branches, Sisters of the Pine Sun River, we got through Redmond, and have looked at the collection needed for Central and how what's coming over from downtown Bend, and really fine tune that budget of quantity of volumes, but also then pricing of what's the current cost. And they've gone through and updated that budget and said, this is what we believe we're gonna need at the end in order to buy all the collection that we want. And so it was at a point where we said, okay, it's time to make this adjustment and bring that more in line with what we really think we're gonna spend. So it represented a large reduction in budget dollars, that most of it flowed back into contingency. On the owner's rep line item, I previously adjusted that budget to anticipate dollars for schedule change. And then also dollars for the move operate or the moving company that is going to be put in underneath our contract. This represents an adjustment to what the final cost on the moving costs were. But also we've added an increase, put budget dollars in there. At the end of downtown Bend, which is in spring of 27. Our contract is going through that point, but we've had discussions with DPL that as we've learned how we manage the projects post-opening, is that there's a 1-year warranty period that we work through with the district, and also that there's probably gonna be requirements or needs for our assistance with the post-bond, closing it down, shutting it down, and fully evaluating at that point of, okay, has the district done everything that they want to do with available bond funds or not? And so we did an estimate of we saw our staff level dropping significantly, but put a forecast in for a 12-month period. And one, to allocate it into a line item so that we're anticipating it. Not necessarily that we're anticipating spending it or committing it at this. Those were the two major changes. There's a minor change in an accounting line item, simply just adjusting that budget based on actual costs. And that's really for the, not the auditors, but the
With the arbitrage?
arbitrage.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I always want to say auditors, it's arbitrage. So that was the big change on the administrative budget there. And then under work package 1, which is central library. So the budget stayed the same, but we've made adjustments within the budget. There was a little cleanup in some land use at $10,000 of just closing out some contracts and moving those dollars out. But then the biggest one was we finalized our evaluation of where we were at with the GMP with KNCC and where we thought we could potentially get to. And so one, I wanted to reallocate the dollars out of our construction contingency within the budget up to the construction budget line item. And so it moves from one over to the next. And I know we'll go through a separate authorization that talks about how we go about executing the spending of those dollars. And so the budget is making that change from contingency up to the hard cost. So those were the two changes, and then the reduction of that contingency by that amount, and that was a little over 3 million. On downtown Bend, which is work package 3. This one is a total budget stayed the same. We had evaluated some alternates, and there's some board authorization about this, that we had gotten that bid time, but hadn't had time to really fully vet them before when we approved the GMP back in June. Since then, we went through it with the team, talked about these alternates, made sure we still wanted to go forward with them. There were 6 alternates, 2 we knew early on we wanted, 3 that we said yes, and 1 we said no to. And so this is pulling money from the construction contingency and moving it up to the construction line item. On Redmond Library, work package 2, it was a small adjustment. The budget stayed the same, just some additional design costs or costs with our architect who continues to help and support the project, and then some utility fees that we had to pay for a light bulb. So not a lot of change there, but a little bit. And then no change on work package 4. That's budget stayed the same and no adjustments. Excuse me. On the reserve contingency, it increased by 3 million, and that's the 3 million that came from basically the general administrative budget down, which came out of the collections reduction. So that budget, that contingency went up, and so, excuse me. The reserve contingency is one that is not allocated, and it's really what today I would say I don't think we're going to need in the future. And so it's our true rainy day budget, where the contingencies that I put within the project budget, I believe we will eventually spend on those. That's how I view it. I put in what I think we're gonna need, so a little difference there. On the combined and there was no change to the bond financing cost. On the combined contingency, I saw a typo there where it says it increased by 424, and that should have said decreased. But it went down by all of those changes to the contingency. And as you can see, you know, we took 3 million and put it into contingency out of the general budget. We used a little over 3 million of contingency in central, moving it into construction. And we also used 300-some-thousand on downtown Bend of contingency. So those are the moves. They do show up in the more detailed report. Overall, you know, we're actually, so the net effect on the contingency, it's still sitting around 17 million, still very healthy. The percentage wise, you know, up over 7%. It's a really healthy contingency level in my mind and where we're at, and our risk level, you know, continues to drop every day as we complete work and move forward with projects and lock in more contracts for the remaining components, and many of which we'll talk about tonight. So on that, otherwise, I think the balance of the report, things were, you know, pretty standard. The biggest activity, of course, on central is execution. We don't have a lot of design work or anything. All of our procurement's done. It's really Kirby executing on construction. On the FF&E side, our furniture, our shelving, our early learning, all of those components are really well advanced in production, in manufacture and completion. Most of them are working towards having 100% of their product ready for installation by November, and starting to move into warehouses here locally and some in the valley. And so that they're ready when we launch in January, the installation, they're just delivering because all their product is done. We've actually had deliveries already starting to ship into, they're pre-staging some of the early learning in the building before we close it up, because the pieces were large enough. It's easier to take through the construction openings, which are large openings in the windows. And the AMH for our RFID equipment, the automated machine, is sitting in Texas at the vendor's office already. It's ready. It's going to be delivered up in December, so it's staged, ready to start assembly. And so those, for me, are things that, again, that reduces risk. Do we have the product? Is it going to be ready for us? Are we going to be able to continue on schedule, on time, and not have delays, not have to expedite any deliveries? So all of our vendors, I think, are really performing well there. The other big component about Central that I will say the team and detail especially has been working on for months is the planning effort for how to move all these people out of all of these locations, because we really look at how we close down East Bend and redeploy all of the stuff, whether it's the books, the people, wherever they're moving to, the administration, and then all of downtown Bend to really get them in place. And I think the planning effort has been really well done. There's a lot of activity that happened that's already there, and it's, you know, and it feels good to be early now saying, okay, we have a pretty good idea of how we're going to do it. That will change every month, I think, all the way till we're done. But I think those efforts are all in really paying off dividends to, get everybody ready to go, so. Most of it, the activity then, downtown Bend, we're in second round of plan check comments with the city. The designs that you saw last month, are being implemented by the design team. We're gonna make a few more adjustments to our shelving, as we've gone through this process. DPL's looked at some of our second floor shelving and where they can see some real value to, improve on our collection. And, it's easy to make at this point because we're implementing this design, and for the most part, it's changing sizes of shelves, maybe a little bit of shape, but minimal. But I think that's just another really good, something that we looked at early and we're gonna be able to capture before anything is built on the shelving. The construction and design team have launched into this early phase, and we've already started our construction meetings with the team, and they are digging into how they're gonna go about building the project, getting all their shot drawing submittals, and the kind of work that we could do upfront ahead of time in order to make sure that all the materials we want are ordered early. Have them so when we close the library and we do the demo, we're instantly going back as quickly and as efficiently putting the systems back together. And so ordering new electrical equipment, new lights, new mechanical equipment, the things that take a long time. We're gonna have a lot of that sitting here in town in warehouses, ready to go, which goes back to our confidence level in can we complete the renovation of downtown Bend in the timeframe that we've projected, and is that realistic? Because we've asked that question of ourselves, and are we making sure we're planning properly? And so we can see the the efforts that are going towards this upfront, and so they're the main activities. There's a little bit of post construction warranty and just follow up on the branches and a little bit of activity on red, and some kind of the summary on the report. And hopefully you guys were able to access the photos, and I figured out why. It's our computer security system that says we have a 7-day limit, so I think that we sent them out twice so that everybody can have access, and if they're not, I can resend them.
No, it worked. Thank you so much for.
Good. And if you download them, you can download them if you want, have them otherwise, but they're always available. So, questions on the report?
I was interested in how the plan check process was going for downtown and whether they have major issues, or, I mean, was there a lot in the first round, or?
It was actually pretty minimal, not real extensive. So no, we're actually thinking that it's possible they may come back and tell us that they're approving the plans with the second submittal set. And trying to decide how we're gonna go about implementing the plan revisions, and I think that, the team has really got a pretty good handle on it, but no, minimal. There was nothing that they felt was a significant cost impact or controversial in any way. So,
And I was also wondering what the major lessons learned from Redmond were as we move into this much larger building. I mean, were there significant things that we learned that got
yeah,
folded in?
I think a lot around our building control systems. For, lighting controls, mechanical controls, all of those control systems. And the complexities of the type of systems that we're putting in. Some of them are a little bit, it's truly the newest and current technology. So sometimes it's new for the tradesmen who are building it out there. We changed the way we manage the crews, and we being Kirby. Kirby increased their supervision over, they brought in a superintendent whose expertise is in the mechanical, electrical systems, and very those control systems, somebody who was very knowledgeable, who could be able to really look at what the subs are doing and say, are you building it correct and on time, to where the completion and the delivery should mean that we're gonna have a smoother transition from construction into the FF&E and to the operational side for Robert and DPL. Those were really big lessons learned on the construction side. A lot about controls of how things are gonna operate, modifying some of the design a little bit. Even as late as today, we've talked about how we're gonna control things, whether it's lights or the window shades and that kind of thing, to make things more intuitive, simpler, and functional and operational. I think those are some of the really big ones on the construction side. I think on the FF&E and furniture side, we've looked at the changes, we made a number of changes to the shelving systems and stuff, and that was lessons learned of what was like, what worked well, what didn't work well, especially as they shelved all of the collection and figured out how that was working. And sometimes it's like, we need taller bookshelves on this one section and this for different types of books. So I think there's been lessons learned there. And with furniture, what is working well, on the furniture, what pieces maybe we don't like and nobody uses and they're in the way or people trip over and so those are things that are definitely lessons learned. There's a lot more, I would say, than I'm saying on the construction side, because we've had long lists of things that we talked about. Quality control on a lot of fronts was a big discussion with Kirby, from the landscape and irrigation and then just the building systems. We kind of amp that up more. And wherever we had problems, we tried to say, what can we do differently in managing or changing the design?
Right. Well, it's a great opportunity for us to just keep making each building better, so I'm glad to hear that we're doing that.
I think, some of this also resonated down here in downtown Bend, because we changed the early learning, the final design of the components that went in there, so that we didn't buy as many components, because it kind of felt like maybe too much. And then this latest round of changing on the shelving was really rethinking it and looking at, are we getting the right collection size? And Emily looks at that very closely, lets us know. In a good way.
In a good way.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you in terms of like durability, specific to like FF&E? Are you, it's only been a little bit of time, but between the smaller satellite libraries and Redmond Library, are you finding that the pieces are as durable for public use as you had anticipated they would be?
There's a number of them that aren't,
Yeah.
and those have been found out, so that's been some switching of certain pieces of furniture, chairs and stuff. That have gone, chairs, benches, I can remember all of the parts. And then the durability of the finish on the shelving system, on the wood paneling. Some of that, the finish, just wasn't holding up as well to people touching it, putting stuff on it, and whatever people would do in there. And we actually spent a fair amount of time with the subs and everybody to work through a more durable finish. And in the end, we end up with it's a 7-coat process to finish the woodwork to make it very durable. And these guys were pulling out, I can't remember everything, you pulled out keys and everything, trying to scratch it, not damage it. And some of the first samples tore up pretty good. Which they go back to the drawing board, and early on, I think the first one was a 3-coat process. And so just the different layers of how they finished the woodwork to be extremely resistant to impact was a really big. And then I think just the really tweaking of the shelving system to make it right size and depths and angles and stuff. We've learned a lot about how we've adjusted that and looked at a mock-up last week of one and said, okay, here's another little tweak that we need to implement because it'll make it function and work better to display the collection and get it in and out. So,
And so for the earlier projects, are you able to go back and make adjustments in terms of any of the FF&E there to have the more durable pieces?
Yeah.
Kind of
We-
swapped out?
Yeah. And under the bond, and this we talked to the bond council about, is that the district is allowed to use available bond dollars to do that, because it's part of the improvement, if we find that, and we've talked about, there's some RFID things that we budgeted for, components for the early branches, because sometimes we didn't know we needed something, or we said, we don't think we can afford it,
Yeah.
because we were tighter with our money back then. And now we're looking saying, okay, maybe we want to do that. And I think that's gonna be and really work out as we get out of central and done with that and all of that. And then as we're doing downtown, is assessing as it starts to work towards the end of the bond. What things should we implement? You know, those lessons learned that ended getting really applied to central and downtown. That maybe we go back and upgrade some of those other things to really extend their life and give the district the best product.
That's, so nice that you're able to, that you have the funds left in the project to be able to do that. And it's such a huge investment and it's gonna have to last a long time. And the construction is really important, but then the furniture and fixtures and all the things people use are what they are going to see more regularly, so, yeah.
I think also the evaluation of how the buildings function, you know, we talk about storage as much as anything. You know, where does everything go? How's it fit? And how much stuff do these guys have a lot? So, you know, and that's one of those things that it's like the most mundane thing. Oh, let's start storage, but it's an
No, it's
important
a-
operational aspect.
Yeah.
Of where do you put all this stuff? And have it so it's usable. You can bury it in an offsite location and then nobody uses it.
Right.
You just hold on to it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, well, shall we start going through some of these? Requests for changes.
Yes, so I was saying, before Robert showed us how well we're doing with our money and now we're gonna spend it.
Exactly.
Yes, so the first one up on the list is the Central Library, Stevens Ranch, and this is for the construction. So this is a request to increase the authorization level for Todd on signing, and this is where I see that we're going to need to increase the GMP. And because we really used up all of their available dollars, paying for things that are things that they would normally pay for using their GMP dollars, but also paying for a lot of stuff that the owner has asked. And that was some of the backup that I put it in there so you kind of could see a little bit of what I look at in reports coming from Kirby. And it's their analysis of their GMP, and these are actually really summarized down and shrunken. They're highly detailed reports of all the costs, and Kirby really is very open book. We see every penny, how it's going. Our approval process as we spend money is they are showing it to us. We do $0 change orders because it doesn't increase their GMP, but it's authorizing them to spend that. And it's really so that at the end of the day, we have a confidence level that the money was spent appropriately for the work that happened out there. But you can really see that, hey, there's a point here. So we worked through with Kirby to say, okay, let's really focus in on what are all our known costs to date under contract, submitted by vendors, either through change orders or proposals or whatever. And then also, what is their forecast of what could happen? And just our own, all of our knowledge as builders and owners reps of what should we be anticipating? And that was to really say, let's forecast it out. And that's how I got to the dollar amount that is in there. In order to set a new authorization level, is that it's actually built off of a very detailed estimate. That was the first couple pages there of what that forecasted amount was and why. And it was looking at each subcontractor saying, okay, what's our risk level with this sub versus some other sub? And there are different risk levels in there. Some questions on any of that, of how I got to the, because it is a big number. It's $3 million. It's nothing small to consider. But I do believe it's within where I see it going. And I will tell you, I had a meeting again with them this afternoon, just going through, we meet on a regular basis to see, okay, do we still feel confident in our forecast? And I will tell you, today it was no different than this. It's, yes, this is where we really think we're headed towards. Not absolutely that we're gonna spend it, because that's what the forecast is. It's the potential. The authorization allows us to, as costs are incurred, to increase their GMP, and that Todd has the authority to sign those change orders.
Any questions further on this one? And this is increasing, it's and increasing by 3,049,000.
Yeah, 49,000. And that, I used the exact dollar number that came out when we did the report and the forecast, because I like to be able to tie off to, I got this number because of all these other numbers.
Right.
So I didn't round it up. I used an odd number. this time.
Okay,
Can you share what Skyline and WPI?
So
do?
Skyline,
Some of these
No.
subcontractors are intuitive, but some of them, yeah.
the Skyline is doing all of the exterior metal skin. So when you see the building and you see all the metals on the outside, the architectural metals, that's all of their work. They do all of sheet metal flashings up on the roof, the copings. They do a lot of metals on the interior, so it's all metal work.
Okay.
And there's, and then WPI is a combination of multiple traditional trades. So they're doing all the metal stud framing, which is what you frame with interior walls and exterior walls, all of the drywall, all of the exterior gyp sheathing, all the insulation. They're actually doing the door package, so doors and hardware. So they have a very large group of traditional trades, sub-trades.
Okay, and you mentioned that some of these increases are related to owner requests.
Yeah.
And are there any specific ones that you want to point out to us, or?
So let me, there's a, no, there it is. If you go to the very last page, this is, so every change that they make after we go through and approve all the subcontracts, because they submit every one to us and we approve it and subcontracts get issued. from then on, they issue change orders to their subcontractors for any adjustments and changes throughout the life of the project. And sometimes they just don't buy all of the work up front and they buy it later. But we categorize every change order. It goes into one of these 9 categories here, so you can see there's owner requested changes, and so that might be, and it should be on the last page.
And I think we printed it out funny, so let me see if I can pull it up. This,
It would look like this if it's,
oh,
I don't, yeah,
Yes.
we don't.
yeah, sorry, it printed out funny, I just realized that, this is actually, is this the one you're looking for?
it goes, nope,
No, that's the one I have.
Yeah.
We have that one, but you don't have all of it. Yeah,
If
kinda got
you
it.
keep going down, Todd, it's after that page. That's where you guys end
Okay,
up.
there.
But that's where you're ending on what you're. There was, an
Oh, yeah, there's the
page.
There it is.
that's the page, right there. Yeah,
And that got cut off. Okay, so that's all
Yes, sorry.
right there.
And then
Yeah.
this is on our public website,
Right.
you have access to,
so
sorry, not noticed that.
if it, there's actually a couple more categories below, right there. But so we go through and classify what drives cost.
Yeah.
So owner requested changes, an owner request and design A&E changes.
Yeah.
Often are one and the same.
Mhm.
They get, so when the contractor and even our James Spence who goes through, they'll look at it and a lot of what's under design A&E changes are because the owner requested a change. So we said, let's redesign this area or that area. But these are the major buckets. The first 5 that have a subtotal, the city requirements are things that the city came out and said, you need to change this. So, and we had a number of them that were around the building structure with using the ALBT. We had to go in and fire caulk and seal some joints that they wanted. They made us put additional fireproofing on some steel. They're subjective, but governing authorities on that side pretty much
Do it.
dictate what you do. And so, you know, we spent $700,000 of doing those kinds of things. Utility companies, same thing, when utility companies come in and say, you gotta make this change, you gotta make that change, and it's driven by them. We didn't ask for it, but we have to do it. So most of those were around electrical and water. Addendum A and addendum B are specifically, plan check corrections when we went through plan check. And so as we went through plan check, they issued them. So those were actually city driven, but we separated them because they were during the plan check phase. And so you can see that was, you know, almost $800,000. The biggest one there, before the subtotal being design A&E changes. So changes to signage design, changes to, it's a variety of things that are asked. But that group are typically what the owner's responsible for. And what we did with Kirby is said, well, you got plenty of money in the GMP, let's spend your money first.
Mhm.
But we'll track it so we know that they could have come back and said, hey, this is a change we couldn't anticipate and contractually shouldn't be required to do.
Right.
But as a partner, they were willing to do this. And, you know, we've done that on all of the projects with both GMPs. The other items down below, the schedule accelerations, which included the impacts to general conditions and general requirements, which is Kirby's operational costs for their staff, their people. It's down there and you can see that's a sizable number, 1.3 million. And it's something that most of the time, the construction contingencies are used to absorb that. If it's a scheduled delay caused by the owner, the contractors are actually entitled to ask for that. And that would be a mixed bag in there, because some of the things where we made adjustments in the schedule were caused by us, some were caused by, not by our general, but maybe by getting through the partition. And we didn't start as fast as we wanted to in the beginning, and so we've used overtime money, which is some of that acceleration, to make sure that we can meet our end date. And to this day, we're still using some of those funds for having the guys work overtime in order to meet our date. The next one there, known scope yet to buy, that is things that at the time that they bought all their subcontracts, they had budgets established for, we still have to buy this scope of work, but the plans aren't far enough along, or we're not ready to buy it, we're gonna price it with different people, and so it's work that's a part of their GMP, it's part of the plans, they just hadn't bought it yet. And they buy it out and then write change orders for it to their subs, and so that's work that is the contractor's responsibility. That's what they were spending on things that they had still needed to complete their buyout. And unforeseen conditions are really around earthwork, underground conditions, and generally, I think most of that is about rock where we weren't expecting rock. And it's really, generally, it's a higher number, and I was.
That's pretty low.
It's like,
They did do a lot of geotechnical surveys that they started this project.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, but that's how we analyzed it and how we look at it. And what makes up those numbers is probably over 400 document or different tracking documents of costs, because some of them can be $500 and some can be $500 million, right?
Mhm.
They have big range of the individual pieces, but so that's how I look at what we're spending on and what we're doing. And it also is for me to really look at and say, okay, did we use Kirby's dollars that they had available to them?
Right.
And we did.
Mhm.
Therefore, there's a point where when you get to the end, you gotta replenish them, or if we're starting to run over on stuff.
Right.
Because they would have had those dollars available to them to do their work, but then we're also asking for changes, so.
Thank you.
Kind of like, when we build a house, you wanna know how much of it is you,
Uh-huh,
you know,
exactly.
versus.
Yeah.
Because that can, you know, way better than in us, how that can just eat you alive. But on the other hand, it's great that we can course correct and make these improvements as we go along. So some of
Yeah.
that is reflected in these numbers,
Yeah.
and we're gonna end up with a better product for the public, which is what we're gonna do, so.
Mhm.
So I would entertain a motion if nobody has any further questions.
I move to provide the library director with signing authority up to $90,864,517 for the KNCC Central Library Construction Contract and Change Orders.
I'll second.
Second, okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes.
All right. So the next one is the owner representative services, of those services that we provide. And so the change here, the increase, it's broken into two change orders that we would do to our contract. The one is change order 4 is really adjusting our contract to meet the master development schedule dates that we set back in February. We just had not adjusted our contract yet for that, but so it's making that adjustment, and it extends our time out, and that's what takes us out to the opening of downtown Bend. And that's really just extending our unit cost, our monthly rates for those periods, and they're different through completion of Central and then through the completion of downtown Bend. The second piece, which is change order 5, is the final cost we established with the moving company. And, you know, we brought on to our staff and took under our role, the whole management of the FF&E and move management. And we have a professional, Chris Taki, not probably said her name wrong, but Chris, on our staff to really work through all of that. And she manages all of the move aspects, and we really felt that we could better manage the process with everything that's gonna happen around central of all of the different operations by putting it underneath this. And so we're basically, I separated it because we want to be able to track it, and ultimately we'll monitor to see what is the actual final cost. If we don't spend it, it actually reverts back to the library that way, because the estimates are really estimating how much time, how much labor time, and these guys help with moving things in, boxing up collection, taking it to where the people are putting it away, as well as furniture or anything that we need them to help with. And so we were comfortable that this is an estimate that captures all of the move activity for central, but also a budget for moving back into downtown Bend at the end, so that we can put everything back there that needs to go back into there. And so, like I said, this will be tracked as an actual hourly time. There is a markup on there for us carrying the contract and managing the contract. But that's what's driving this. The increase does include the additional budget that we set up for future services after the opening. But our intent is to not request those funds to be put into our contract. At this time, our recommendation is that somewhere when we start the move-in process into downtown Bend, is that we will have a conversation with the district about how much our services will be needed post-opening. But we're setting aside dollars in the authorization for Todd, as well as dollars in the budget. And that way, then, should we extend our services, we can process that change order. So does that make sense?
Any questions? I will take the motion.
All right, I move to provide the library director with signing authority up to $6,667,000 for the contract and change orders of the owner's representative services.
And second.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes. FF&E.
Yep, so this is the furniture for downtown Bend. We completed that design. We went out and priced it with our vendor, WRO. It fits within our budget. The authorization level at 700,000 is a little higher than our current contract, but we know that we're making some changes to our furniture, minor changes with the redesign, and so this gives us a little bit of a buffer there to accommodate those changes and roll them into Pacific WRO's contract. So that was, there's a lot of backup because they itemize everything. And so we go through it, and all of the unit prices are unit prices that we've generally already seen on post or previous projects, and or set up within the cooperative agreements that we are working under with these projects. This would be authorizing us to move forward with that contract.
Questions? That's good. Pretty simple one. Any motions?
I move to provide the library director signing authority of $700,000 for the downtown Bend's library furniture contract and change orders.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes.
The next one is on the downtown Bend shelving systems. And very similar in that design was completed, we bid it all out in budget. The authorization level being at the 1,450,000 is at our full budget that we have. As you can see, the current estimated contract is about $1,100,000. The changes that we're gonna implement to the shelving with what you saw in that design last month, where we're increasing the quantity. Chris went through and did an estimate of what she thought that would mean based on all of the, because we have all their unit prices and you can see what, so. That's why the authorization is up that high. We should be able to capture all of those changes. We're thinking we may even be able to capture the changes on the second floor staying within our overall budget, but having the authorization. We do want to get the contracts done, get them going, and then when the final designs come out, because it'll take the design team a couple months to revise the plans, get them reviewed and approved before we give it to the vendors. It lets them really start their contracting process, because while it seems like it's a long ways away, it takes a lot of time to work through submittals and procurement on the same stuff. Any other questions on that? And this is with Space Saver Specialists, who's a vendor.
So the 1.1 doesn't include the last modifications that were made, okay,
Yeah.
but that's why there's a little bit of cushion.
Yeah.
To adjust,
Yeah.
account for that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I move to provide the library director with signing authority up to $1,450,000 for the downtown Bend library shelving system contracts and change orders.
Okay.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes.
All right. So Miller Hall, our design team, a number of changes here. You know, we have them do small changes as we ask them to do things, and those are done hourly, and we capture them and we'll add those up. And that's kind of the stuff that happens with Central Library and Redmond Library, or smaller amounts of changes. The big change in this total request is downtown Bend Library. And it previously I'd adjusted the budget anticipating this, because we've been working on this change to their contract for about 8 months, since almost a year. It's like last September, October that we talked about it. Is that when we contracted with Miller Hall, it was based on a schedule that we had created at the very beginning. And as we've gone through most of the stuff, they've been able to, you know, work within our schedule revisions, or we adjusted, you know, when we moved from Roble to Stevens, there was a substantial change for them on their contract costs there. And one of the things with downtown Bend, since we first did the schedule to what we're doing today, we changed it dramatically and extended the duration, this whole pre-phase, and the amount of engagement that they would have. And where we've asked them for more services from either them or their consultants on the other projects, and it's somewhat like the lessons learned, and we said, we need more support here, we need more support here, and this is capturing that for downtown Bend, where it's really extending. And so that's the really largest portion of this. It does include the design fees for the design revision that we looked at last month. But the real big dollar change that was in here that drove the increase was the downtown Bend schedule. And so it's something that we worked through, and I itemized of how it impacted each of the consultants and their time and their workload and how they'll staff it. And so generally I've been putting in about 100,000 for additional hourly work that is ongoing. I did increase that to 200,000, simply because as we move into this final phase of doing stuff on Central, I wanted to make sure that there was authorization level, that if we need to say, hey, Miller Hall, we need you to do this, that we weren't stretching Todd's authorization limit, and to make sure that we could have them react quickly to us, because I could see that we do burn through our hourly requests with them, overall on all of these projects. And I expect that may ramp up here near the end as we go through the final phase. So questions on that?
Let's see, I moved to provide the library director with signing authority for Miller Hill's contract and change order total not to exceed $19,582,827.
I second.
Yeah, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Yes. So the last one. And we're done. It's on Downtown Bend, and this is the alternates that I mentioned earlier. And these were alternates that we identified that we felt that we wanted, but we wanted to see what the pricing was. We wanted to see how we came in on GMP, because they were truly, if the GMP had come in way over budget, then we would likely have said that maybe you don't want to do those things. But these are the final ones that we wanted to, when I did the last prior budget adjustments, we had it really set at the GMP level. So these funds were pulled from the contingency to offset them, but they are three different things that we felt were really important to do, just to have the work that we wanted and to address some existing components, so. Questions on that?
No.
Okay.
I move to provide the library director with signing authority up to $60,576,127 for the downtown Bend Library KNCC GMGC contract and change orders.
I second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. You've got to read them all.
Yes.
That's a lot. I can remember when authorizing a new roof for sisters seemed like a major expenditure. Yeah.
That is true with a big bond project like this, it's always, 9 figures or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, don't get too used to it. We'll be back to normal in a couple of years.
Okay, we have a monitoring report
Yes,
to wind up our regular agenda.
and my apologies, I gave you on one agenda, I said it was gonna be me, on the other it's Lynn. It's gonna be Lynn. So, what do you want to do here?
I have it on the journal here.
Oh, okay. Let's, I'm trying to use my brain.
I know, me too. Does anybody need to take a break while we do this setup? Oh,
Yeah.
Great time.
Okay.
You're kidding.
No.
I was just gonna check that.
Tina,
Yeah.
thank you for the response.
Just so you know, like, if anybody comes at you with that again, that's just
Yes.
policy.
Yeah, no, and I assumed it was, and my earlier thing said, we don't get into that business. But I. And she's a very. Try to utilize.
Get those guys to work for us all the time.
Yeah, no, sure. You've got a great newsletter.
Goes to like 50 to 60,000 people. Everybody wants to get on that train.
Right.
This is chart,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it sounds like this time.
Uh,
They have a pretty robust website as well, so. uh, Yeah, I just got an email and I got it with all video, like, and we were in a roundtable workshop session, yeah, and so we were talking about what was going on in our library district, and she was from Southern California. And then at the end, she said, oh, but we're coming to Bend. And
They love.
peppering me with things.
If it were a library program, it would absolutely be in the news.
Well, exactly. We have valuable real estate.
Yeah, we do nice, yeah, but, yeah. Thank you, Mary. There's a lot to, yeah, there's a lot to learn, I have a lot going on, a lot to that going, yeah. Yeah.
Robert, do you have an adapter?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I was with the end about it.
Oh, so you're. It's that time, I would not.
Did you get it?
I think so.
There you go. Those are good sounds.
Okay.
We're shy, like, now?
Yeah.
There you go. It's going. Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, but two same day.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Right.
Did something with the word, it was like, oh, okay, still.
Yeah.
It just gave that.
Because I can knowledge of his memories. Before he crossed. Because I forget. Huh?
That's what you're like, because otherwise.
Well, I have forgotten, and then it did stay on. But usually the car wash guys will hand it.
Yeah.
Because they.
Yeah.
That's forgotten.
And then just.
Can't all work. I think you're probably.
Okay. I'll go ahead and get started so you can out and talk about it, right?
that's good.
Optimizer.
No, I didn't. There it is.
You waved it like a lot.
I think I told it to hire.
And they were talking about, right? Christmas, I can't even imagine.
I love raisins. I never ate those for a while.
Oh, it's pretty good.
That is my one.
Okay, are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. So this monitoring report is on treatment of library customers. I've provided you with my analysis where, I'm not gonna go much into that, but I did ask Lynn to kind of give us some more background on the way we do things, and that will help inform this as well. And then obviously we'll have time for questions at the end. Ooh, and the Reese's showed up. Okay. Okay.
Eat your treatment. So the treatment of library customers, really, I think we can just give them all candy and.
Yeah.
This monitoring report, again, is just gonna address how the library treats our customers and what they can expect from us as well. And as Todd said, he highlighted how we have his analysis of how we've been meeting this monitoring report, but I'm just gonna go through it real quick. So treatment of library customers, let's have a look at it. So the first one really deals with our customer forms and information and what we actually gather from our customers, what we ask of them. And we only ask them the things that we really absolutely need. For example, these are the things that we need really from our customers. We need to establish that they live in Deschutes County for residency. That's, kind of an important thing. We do want to make sure that they do live in the county. We will also need contact information. They need to know when to pick up their homes. They need to know what programs and resources are happening in the district. Access to information. Yes, we do have to have their barcode. We might need to change their passwords because that's how they access our catalog, our services, all of our resources.
Oh, one
Yes,
thing to throw in there, we do not know anybody's PIN number.
nope, it
It's-
comes up as
it's
asterisks.
encrypted.
Yes. So.
That really throws people off.
We also gather information for just different kind of efficiencies and statistics. We do need to gather some statistics. We do it from the state library. They do require a few things. And then also for us, it helps us as we're looking for trends. So when Chantal wants to know what areas should I concentrate or what area do we want to concentrate on for programs or some services? When Tina wants to know, I need an email list of all of these customers that live in this area, so I can, blast them about getting their cards renewed. It's really helpful to have that information. Didn't know if anybody was aware of this, but we have really moved away from using paper and paper forms in the library. They use a laminated form. They gather the information. When it's all done, it gets completely wiped. We also do really the majority of our cards online. But if any of you have gotten cards recently, you've probably done that. If you renewed your card, then you've been on the renewal form as well. And we do not share this information. We do not take it lightly. When someone comes in and wants to know, I need to know this address of this person, or we've had instances where a police officer has brought in a purse or something, say, hey, the only thing in here is a library card. Can you tell me who this is? And the answer is no, you need a court order, you need a subpoena. We need to know, we need that before we can do that. We will take that and we can notify them, but we will not give you that information. So again, we just really value our customers' privacy. One of the things that sometimes happens though, and you see this, I see this a lot, like if you go to the doctor's office or you're checking in somewhere, we can't always guarantee privacy. Sometimes it's the customers that like to share their world with everybody in the room, and that's okay. But we do provide a variety of seating options in areas within the library. All of our library areas are for everyone. But we do try and say, if you're having problems or you really do need privacy, we can get meeting rooms for people or study rooms. And what's great about our new libraries, we have a lot of them. So it's been really, really great to do that. And then you can see this is again, our new red library. People are being very, very respectful in a teen area. It's been awesome. Code of conduct. This is probably the administrative rule that gets looked at the most at our libraries. The code of conduct, I had to plug in here for that. Code of conduct is not to be quiet. Yeah. But it is very broad in scope. It's also very comprehensive, and we make it broad for a reason. If you're too specific about what you can't do or can do in the library, then if you don't list it, like you can't do this, then it is allowed. So we try to be very broad. We also, I think you did get it in your packets, probably didn't read it ad nauseum like we always do, because I think a couple of people in here may have it memorized. But it does really clearly identify what the expectations are, the behavior expectations for our customers. It's also readily available. It's on our website, can be printed out at any time. Here's the code of conduct. This is what happened. It also does provide an appeal process for customers. If they have an issue, they're like, I didn't do that, I want to talk about it. Did it really have to be out for 3 months? Can we talk about this? And there's an appeal process, and Todd and I frequently, and our supervisors get involved in that appeal process.
We get to meet some very interesting people.
Yes, we do. Also for customer service, the flip side of that customer code of conduct is the administrative rule about customer service. And this is where we do provide reasonable open hours. We show respect for the individual, no matter what walk of life they come from. We provide equal access to all of our services and our resources. Try and be organized layout. I think it's getting better. But I think it's been, with our new libraries, I'm really happy with how the organization of our collections, our furniture, how things are laid out to provide some of those spaces where people can be quiet or they can be noisy if they want to enjoy crafts and etc. And also the clean and comfortable. We did get some new furniture. It's really comfortable. still working on the clean sometimes. It's a public space, so that is something that we're always working on. And there's brothers and sisters. Customer input. The other thing that we do, and when we're talking about serving our customers, is we do value the input that they do give us. We have a couple of ways that customers can do that. The most common one and the ones that we see a lot are the contact us. It's on our webpage. That's anywhere from book suggestions, requests. I lost my card, I forgot my PIN. I don't like Wayfinder. You're not open at 1 a.m. It varies. Well, you'll get one that says, gee, you know, I really like the new library at Central. Wow, that building is the worst thing I've ever seen. It runs the gamut. We also have a actual physical suggestion box. And our supervisors, they empty that out about once a week or so to get those. A lot of them are anonymous, but we still keep them and track them to see what people are asking of the library or the staff. And then lastly, we also have you all as the library board. You're also our feedback loop too for our customers. Okay, and lastly, the ALA Bill of Rights. This is something that is really our touchstone for customer service. And that is included, if you look at the privacy and confidentiality, it was included, I think it's the second to last page of that administrative rule. But it really, it influences the board policies that you all create, that you work on, that you polish. It influences the administrative rules, how they're written up, how we serve our customers, and also our policies and procedures, so that we are making sure that we follow the Bill of Rights to the best of our ability. And I think that is it. That was really fast. Any questions?
What are some of the general themes of feedback that we've gotten in the last year or two?
Or tell you, the number one has been, hoopla.
I was gonna say, yeah. Depends on what service
And
we are.
we've probably gotten about 60 direct, suggestions. It's actually when Emily, before we started, Emily expected 400, just based on 10% of the users. But it's slowed down very much to a trickle to the people that just now are realizing they can't get in.
Okay, so just disappointment that we don't offer that.
Yes. We've been sharing with them. You saw our reasoning when we started this, which is pretty clear, but it's a tough one, especially for the people that were really using it.
I think, and again, it depends on what service we're either rolling out or maybe taking away, like Hoopla. The renewal process has given us some interesting feedback about that, and
I say East Bend is rising.
yes,
I've
it
seen
is.
one so far, but I'm
That's
expecting
not,
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like when that library, as we get closer to closing that building, we'll probably see more. When we get closer to closing building across the street, we'll see, I'm sure, quite a few. When Redmond opened, my favorite ones were always the green spots. We got complaints about the green car spots. What does that mean?
What does it
Like,
mean?
yes, the parking. That can sometimes be, what else do we get? I'm looking at the supervisors all day.
Wayfinder, when we rolled out Wayfinder.
Wayfinder, yeah, Wayfinder, something new.
Yeah.
People don't write to tell you what a great job you're doing.
No.
Every once in a while we get this.
Sometimes they-
You do get that, we love to share that with staff.
Yeah.
And they often will share
Yeah,
the specific person they work with, which is really nice. That is nice.
yeah,
Be able to share that with the staff.
yeah.
And I think from most of the experience in replying to board questions, you know, people often have a reaction to a change, but they don't they are not privy to all the thought that went into why that change was made. And usually when you explain it to them, they're okay. I mean, or they may, you know, they may still be, you know, passionately attached to the Dewey Decimal System, but you know, they can realize, well, not everybody is.
Yeah.
And I can see why you would do that. So people are pretty reasonable.
We got one recently, they want us to bring fines back. Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it really runs the gamut, sometimes. Yeah, but I would say when we bring out new services and there's trouble understanding them, or if they are taken away and it was something that somebody was really passionate about, that tends to be where we see the upticks, so. But as Todd mentioned, when we start opening the new building in Central, closing downtown, closing East Bend, it will happen, the uptick will happen.
And you should also be aware, a lot of these numbers are not huge, but every time we close for in-service day, I usually get one or two.
I didn't mean to ask
And
about
I'm sure, and by the way, when I say I get them, none of this counts people standing in front of the staff
Right.
and making a
Right.
comment, because
I would love to throw out that I'm one of the people that's standing in front of our
Yes, yeah.
customers, and I've been in 2 of the new buildings, during our last year. And constantly in person, the thing that I think that we hear the absolute most is, wow, this is beautiful. And an admiration for the buildings themselves, and I know that those don't make their way all the way up, because they're saying it when they see it, and they tell one of us. And then that doesn't go up, but that is constant.
yes, thank you.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that mirrors my experience
Yeah.
when you're in front of somebody, yeah.
That's great. Other?
Have we had more of, I know during, right, as we were coming out of COVID, it was horrible for staff in dealing with people that were angry and frustrated. Is that continuing to go down, or, I mean,
I think overall, here at Deschutes Public Library, we have them on occasion, we don't have them on a daily basis.
Right.
Even though it may seem like that, but if you look at district wide, I would say that, you know, it's still pretty low. Not specific to be angry about something we're trying to enforce, no, generally it's more, you know, this person did this to me, they're fighting them, people are having disagreements amongst themselves. Or there's just having, just other kind of maybe issues, personally that we just have to talk to them about. And like I said, the staff are really good about de-escalating, trying to find the root of the problem. And then trying to help that person as much as possible. On some days that might be, you know, this isn't working for you today, why don't you come back again tomorrow, we'll try again tomorrow and see if we can have a better day together.
right,
It is, though, it's down about
It is down,
100% from COVID. I mean,
Right.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I mean,
When,
like,
when there's an incident in the libraries, we get alerts. So during, I mean, I was aware that it was almost 7 a week across the district, and usually we're averaging, just general incidents, probably 2 or 3 a week, sometimes 1 a week. And that runs from a 2-year-old fell and bumped their head. Not a daily, somebody who's in my face yelling at me
Right.
because they didn't want to wear a mask, and
right,
yeah, that was a very difficult time for our staff.
yeah.
But nothing like that.
And what kind of training do the staff go through to be good at de-escalation and dealing with customer issues?
There's a lot of online training that they do some at orientation. Ryan Dow, there's a whole series of trainings that the library requests and requires it. But then you can also, we have many employees that follow him. He's got that's what I'm looking for. He's not on Instagram, but he does like a list or posting that a newsletter kind of thing that he puts out. The other thing too is we also invite, I think a few in-services ago, we had somebody from the county that worked specifically with people that had mental issues or maybe different kinds of issues and how to de-escalate them. And that was pretty, I can't remember.
It was the crisis response team.
Thank you. Crisis response team. I should have known you would know. Yes, that's the crisis response team. So we do a variety of it. It's always a refresher. Yeah. Is there anything else that we?
We role play a lot.
We role play a lot. Oh, I know. I love role playing.
Yeah, they got it. We love that.
Uh-huh.
What do you find is the biggest challenge in terms of, the library customers? And what do you find is the biggest, like, area of opportunity where you're like, oh, like, I think we could do even better in this area?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would have to think about that. I'm kind of looking at my.
I can just
Yeah.
tell from a
There.
stress level, it's dealing with people that are going through some type of mental health crisis.
Some kind of.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's unpredictable, it's a lot of energy and anger. Yeah, but it is really interesting. I'm always impressed on occasion. I see something happening and I'm like, a staff person's dealing with it. There's one I was in somebody was having a very bad day.
Mhm.
And it was just so amazing to watch how calm our staff person was, and I was just kind of standing around in case something went awry. I told them, I'm not here judging your work, I'm just here to help you.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing that how well they do with that, and so I think those are the most difficult, because it's just not what a library, and the majority of the time is a quiet, calm place, and so it really stands out when you're
Yeah,
We're
I
doing
think
great.
that, like, providing that customer service excellence across the entire library for each person is the hardest thing.
Mhm.
Because everybody comes in with a different expectation of what they're gonna use the library for and what it's supposed to provide for them. And the staff person has to sort of figure out, like, what's your expectation, and am I answering your question or serving your need? And then the next person is, and it's
Different.
yeah. I think a lot of the public and customers in general think like, oh, people come in and they ask for books and we show them where books are and they're all right here. But that's like out of 50, and the next person's coming in because they just want some water, and the next person has a first aid need, and the other person wants a ton of information about something you know nothing about. And so I think that's the hardest, is just that smoothness of execution across everyone. And that it really is like cold call, but the person standing in front of you, because every person that walks through the door, you have no idea what they're gonna say. You're just like, okay, and so it's that. Now that person. So I think that's where when we're hiring, that's what we're looking for, is people that are ready to kind
Be flexible, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to like the variety of resources that the library provides to the community, where it's kind of like you're like a jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the opportunity, is that so many people come in not knowing, of course, all the things that we do. So it's introducing people to the different services, resources, programming, all of that. And keeping people abreast of all the changes and all the exciting things that are happening in the library.
I know this is,
Oh, you did.
I probably said it better.
I know this is treatment of library customers, but I know sometimes in my work as an interpreter, having to interpret somebody's mental health crisis, when you walk away from those situations, there's a lot of vicarious trauma that you have to process yourself.
Yeah.
And so what do we offer our staff as an opportunity afterwards to process for themselves, instead of just having to go back out on the floor and work with the next customer? Do we have opportunities for them to have?
Absolutely. I mean, if they need a break, if they need to take a minute, that is totally something that we encourage and say, and even if they don't even ask for it, if the supervisors notice it, they'll be like, you just need to take a minute. One of the things I'm excited about, especially in our newer, bigger buildings, is the wellness room that we have for our staff. It's like, that's a great place to just, decompress, center. Are you okay to continue? And there might be times too that it is just so traumatic for the staff person. They might need to take the rest of the day. And that's something that's totally built to them too. We like to debrief. We like to talk about what happened. Nobody has ever left, especially on their own, if something is witnessed. Yeah, for sure. And they're always welcome to come and talk to their supervisors. We encourage it. Anything to add? I'm looking at
I
everybody.
would throw out too that we also, as our services have evolved to meet the community asks and needs, we've evolved how we set up that workflow. So we keep our staff constantly moving. And so like you get a certain type of question in a certain location of the library, and every hour, all of our locations moves the staff around so that one person isn't sitting there and receiving all of that for 4 hours straight. So our workflow has adjusted to meet that new type of interactions as well.
Thanks, Bree, that's right.
Yeah.
So, awesome, thank you.
Thanks. All right, well, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. So any other questions for Todd regarding his monitoring report? Is there anything in there that people had any questions about? Okay, well, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the library is in compliance with executive limitations policy 3-L.
I think it's I.
3-I.
Yes, I did.
I. Okay.
I will second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes. All right. Todd, do you have library news for us?
Do. Got our American Libraries magazine, with our, after all that excitement, it should have been the realization like, oh, there's one picture of the library in it. But anyway, that's highlighting.
Line, there's like
Page
four-
19.
Yeah.
Page
There's
19.
like 4 or 5 pictures, interior shots.
Yes, but it's nice to get the recognition.
Each one, you each want one?
I'll go
Did you want to-
Yeah.
Yeah, there
And if you are not a member of the American Library Association, you can join and you can get this on a monthly basis. Which is really an excellent
Mhm.
magazine.
It's a, yeah, nice way to find out some trends going on in libraries.
Yeah.
So our work session on the 19th, we just wanna. I'm just gonna give you some information. We'll talk a little bit about it more at the work session, but. About a year ago, the Children's Museum was interested in the 1 acre at the Central Library, but they ended up moving on to a different property. Well, they're back. And so that's something I just want to talk about, but when Chantal and I met with them last Friday. And they seemed pretty excited about that, so we just wanted to talk about what that might mean for us. But it's a good question when I was talking to him, because I had a picture of what I thought a children's museum was. And I was a little bit off. So I had them send us some information, so I've got their 1-page sheet on what they do, so I will pass those around. Just so you have a little more information on them. They have a pretty neat website too. On the 19th, we've been trying to find a time for you to tour the Central Library. So we've checked with Kirby Nagelhut and we're leaving open the space for us. If you are interested, after the work session, 3 p.m. to go to the Central Library, it's available for a tour. So if I know it's short notice, if you're not available for that, I know we're taking up a big part of your day. We'll try to work on some other times for you, but
Is the work session from 10 to 2 or 10 to
is.
3? Okay, 10 to
So
3.
we'd be at 2-ish, and we could leave here at 2 to.
Yeah, I told them 3 just to give us some time in case, well, it takes about 20 minutes to get there. And yeah, just kind of leave some flexibility for us.
One note about site visits to the construction site is closed-toed shoes, heavy duty if possible. The high visibility vests and hard hats will be provided at the site.
Yes.
Oh, and parking on Santorini Street, which is the street that parallels 27. You can kind of overshoot the library and go to the roundabout at Wilderness Way and then back up. That's probably the easiest way, rather than figuring out, oh, where's my left and where's Pele Drive and all that.
Also just realize it's dusty out there.
Unless it's.
Don't wear the white pants, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah.
They was probably in money.
Oh, yeah. Funny, we talked about how much storage we need. Tomorrow is our in-service day and tomorrow's the purge. You may have noticed the big dumpster out here. We've got one over next door as well. And we've been in this building since 1939. And next door for 25 years, we've collected a lot of stuff. And so this is our opportunity for everybody to go through all their office stuff, looking around the building, and we're trying to kind of pare down what we have before we start getting ready to move. So this is a start for us. So it's kind of exciting for me. It's kind of like, this is the kickoff where everything is about to happen. For others, they've already had that. East Bend is winding down. If any of you have been in East Bend in the last couple of weeks, you may have noticed it looks like a business that's going out of business. Well, I'm gonna make this more complicated. If you don't know the way we do it, thanks at this library, we have a floating libraries collection, which means that if you check out a book in downtown Bend, and then you're driving through Sisters and you return it there, it will go on the shelf in Sisters. It doesn't come back to downtown Bend. And what we did for East Bend is we said every book that comes back into East Bend will go to downtown Bend. And that is quickly dwindling that collection. We're purposely doing that because that saves us a lot of money and having to pick up all that collection, box it and move it. So kind of our customers are doing that for us. But they circulate a lot of stuff there and it's definitely winding down. We're getting ready for our last programs in October.
October 31st is the last.
Yeah. Oh, and just, I probably mentioned this before, but November 8th, we will be having a celebration of the East Bend Library, for all the great work the staff has done for us and the building's done for our community. So just keep that in mind. That's our chance to kind of honor that building.
To honor it.
Nice. And that's my news.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, do you have foundation news?
The foundation board met last month and, there wasn't a whole lot of happening that meeting. There's gonna be some reshuffling in terms of the different committees and who's serving on the different committees and how they're gonna function. And I think that the foundation is kind of looking forward to like what their next projects are gonna be for supporting the library. I think that with, where we're at with supporting, kind of capital projects that there's been a lot of work that's been done there and it's been really great, but I think we're also starting to look towards maybe looking at something bigger that's gonna help support and protect the library into the future too. So, yeah, that's kind of exciting. But that's it.
Well, and along those lines, put your thinking caps on for the work session. Because we're gonna be doing a lot of visioning for the future and talking about ideas that we'd like more information on as we think about what's next. So I think it's gonna be a really good session. So put some thought into it in between now and then, and we can kick around some ideas.
Oh, and part of that is from the work session we had in August about futures of the library.
Right.
I've got summaries of those to share with you, so that'll be going in your packet for that meeting.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna be a really good work session.
Also, notice, just update your binders for this. Laura, change your address. Oh, yeah, that's why you're getting into the one. Right. Yes.
Okay, so do we want to have a self-review of the meeting? Erin, would you like to start?
And we are,
And and,
other stuff.
Shifting.
yes, and shifting to.
Yeah.
The good of the order.
Yeah, I have been in contact with Haley Rockwell, one of the community librarians. There's been a lot of interest from the community librarians on some basic sign language. We're working with customers, and so she and I are working on putting together a time where I can come in and do a little miniature sign language lesson with them. Looking at probably December for that.
That's great. Yeah, cool. Thank you. That's it.
Let's see, I attended SDAO's training last month about, what was it, kind of like a training for board members and executive directors of districts and that sort of thing. Highly recommend it the next time it comes out. The trainer is very entertaining. And one of the things that we talked about, the public meeting laws have kind of expanded a little bit to just include some of the newer ways that we communicate, which is a lot of email and texting. And so that was one of the highlights. A quorum can happen in an email, and really for us to be thinking about the concept of public meeting. Having public meetings is to keep our business and decision-making as transparent as possible. And so that was I would say, one of the highlights of the meetings. And the state has made it easier for individuals to, this isn't the right term, but complain about or say, I think maybe this agency is, or this board is not following public meeting law the way that they should. So it's been a little bit challenging for some districts to handle the large amount of complaints that are coming in. But I think overall, the purpose of it, I think, is good. So great conference. Thank you, or training. Thank you for letting us know about that.
I had a interesting experience in the wild that I'll share with you. So during the day, I'm a real estate broker, and I had my first kind of opportunity showing property in Stevens Ranch.
Oh.
And so it was just amazing to go kind of be in the shadow of that awesome library. And it was the cutest thing because it's all new construction. So there's people that represent the builders, and there was this, one particular builder that my client was interested in. And so his representative packed us into her little golf cart and was driving us around. And she was like, and that's the library. And she was so cute. She's like, I heard there's gonna be a coffee shop there. It's really, I'm clearly biased, but it was a very sweet perspective as we looked at different areas of town. And this is actually for a client of mine whose mother is moving to the area and retiring, and just looking at the merits of being in different spaces and really feeling the reality of what a huge benefit it is, not just, to young families, but to, for the proximity to that library and the sense of community that it creates. And it's gonna have such a huge impact on all of us in Central Oregon, but especially those lucky souls that get to just walk down the street and kind of
Right.
in there. So it was just a cute little perspective on it.
It's kind of good to be like a spy.
I was totally incognito, I was just, yeah, it's just such a impressive structure. I don't think it's too big or too ugly or whatever. It really sets the tone for that whole area.
And I just got back from a road trip in Colorado, and so I visited libraries. And it was really, it was fascinating because there were libraries in historic structures that had been combined with community centers that there were just some outstanding dual use buildings and really creative ways that they worked with historic structures and incorporated really vibrant libraries within them. And had, the best part of this is just chatting with the librarians, because if you go up and start talking to them, people are so friendly and so great. And so I was in this one library, and they had just renovated another branch and expanded it substantially and had a big bond. And she said, well, and there's our main library in this other town, but she says, that's just like a government building. So, don't say that I said this, but you don't really need to go there. Go to this other one, because it's really cool. And it had a great big deck overlooking the river, where people could sit out and read and enjoy the river running by. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun just going around and checking out libraries. It was good.
Well, I have to share my one little moment. I was walking through downtown Bend, one of our staff, persons, it's an Anissa or Anissa? Anissa. She was helping somebody, looks at her and says, this is the greatest library ever. And so I stopped her and I said, so how much did you pay him?
Exactly.
So anyway, nice reflection on our staff.
That is, well, good meeting, everybody, and thank you. And with that, I'll adjourn. Well, it's was the best one. It was in Estes Park. I'm out, I'd gone into the library, came out, and there was a mama elf and her baby right next to the book. I will send you a picture. I dropped the baby out in the picture, but yeah. It's like, well, moms are taking the kids.